Black Lake, Dead Lake. Black Lake, Dead Lake. Black Lake, Dead Lake. I came for the sensation of swimming in a dead lake. What I found though was altogether unexpected. But first, let's get back to last night's break-in, shall we? So remember, I said we had to literally break into this lady's home, and I was thinking when we went to bed, like, we're going to have a lot of explaining to do. But the funny thing is that when the lady who runs the place, so she and her husband, it's a family-run establishment, when they realised that 3 men had broken in because they came to our room, saw us asleep, the first thought the lady had was like, oh, visitors in the night. I wonder what they were going to have for breakfast. So she actually went and made breakfast for us, you know, waiting for us to wake up. Now, we'd gotten in late, about 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. that is, and we were tired, so we just slept on and on. And then she kept sending people back like, are those guys dead? Like, they've been sleeping for a long time. They actually peered in to see if we were still breathing, and then finally around 12 noon, we made our appearance, and that's when she told us all about this. And I was saying to her, you know what? You're absolutely so kind. I mean, we had no choice. It was freezing outside. It was about -3 degrees when we came in. And that's another funny point about this place, which is that the diurnal range is insane. Right now, the temperature is about 20 degrees centigrade. I mean, like, it feels like the middle of summer. It's so beautiful. Look at the vistas. Look at the mountains in the background. Look at the, you know, the white caps. We're going to go and see Karakul Lake in just a bit. But the diurnal ranges here are amazing. Have we got everything right? We can go?
Yep.
All right. So, the lady said, because she just left as we started this, she said, oh, when you're done, would you mind shutting the door? I'm going to my daughter's PTA meeting. So this village does have a school, and there is a lot of structure in this village of Karakul. And it's not like to just shut the door. We're not even going to lock it with a key. I mean, like, this lady is phenomenal. Sorry, guys. Come to Karakul. When you come to Tajikistan, I should have said this up front. Homestay Erkin. I mean, like, the rooms are comfortable, great value for money. The couple who run this place are absolutely adorable. Great food. Location is terrific. And the hospitality is second to none. So, Homestay Erkin. So, I'm going to shut the door. And off we go. The mysteries of Karakul await. Karakul is Tajikistan's biggest lake. Its depth is approximated at 230 meters, but reliable statistics are hard to come by. The lake sits in a Miocene-era meteor crater and is just as gorgeous as it looks. At 4,000 meters, it's also the highest of Tajikistan's principal lakes. That's Tajik, Behrouz and Alisher is speaking. You see, the Tajiks are the furthest extant community of Persian speakers, and the language is a regional variant of the Persian spoken in Iran. Completing this linguistic fraternity is Afghanistan, where the local Persian is called Dari. Interestingly, these Pamiri highlands, sparsely populated as they are entirely Kyrgyz. Tajik is almost as foreign to the locals here as Mandarin might be. One easily forgets, driving through these parts of Tajikistan, how close one is to China. That border fence on the right is the loose demarcation between Tajik and Chinese territory. Scale those mountains and you'll be looking right down on China. Behold, the moment has finally come. I am about to be schooled. And now comes the moment to which I'd been looking forward for a year. I was going to see what it felt like to swim in this black lake, this dead lake, but I couldn't. But not because the water was too cold, but because the water was too heavy. I'd been warned that the cold waters of Karakul Lake would feel heavy to swim in. When I'd asked why, I was told it was because of the altitude. We're 4,000 meters up here. But this I dismissed. Yes, gravity does vary with altitude, but the variation is too negligible to be relevant. And if anything, we would be helped by gravity since we're further from the Earth's centre at 4,000 meters. So, what was making the water so heavy? I was unprepared for its heaviness. It felt about 30 or 40% heavier than what I was used to. My signature underwater moves were thwarted. That which I could do with ease in swimming pools at sea level and a more comfortable temperature range of 26 or 27 degrees was impossible here. Then I latched onto the culprit. Density. Water is denser at colder temperatures, but much later, when my thoughts drifted to my swimming difficulties, I realised my error. The water had felt heavier by as much as 40%. Density would never account for that much. If it did, that ice-cold glass of water you leave standing out at room temperature should shatter as the water in it expands with the rise in temperature. But as we know, this expansion is not enough to shatter the glass. So, I looked up the temperature density tables for water. The numbers, like gravity, confirmed me in my suspicions. It couldn't be density. So I turned to Google. Why is it harder to swim in cold water? I trawled through pages of the Google results for a fair bit and turned up nothing. Google had failed me. There was only one option left. Recall everything you were ever taught about fluid mechanics in your high school physics. But my mind kept coming back to density, which I already knew was wrong. Then, I remembered. Oil floats on water, but I'd still tire more quickly swimming in oil than in water. The answer wasn't density at all, it was viscosity. But what exactly is viscosity, and how is it different from density? Density deals with how tightly matter is packed into a space. The more dense, the more items of the substance can fit. As the substance gets colder, it can take more items into the same space, making it feel heavier. Viscosity deals with how tightly bonded these same items are to one another, regardless of how tightly they're packed. The more viscous the substance, the more difficult it parts from itself, or parts to let other objects move through it. Imagine you're at the edge of the crowd in a fixed space arena at a concert in summer. Everyone's friendly and having a good time as you're trying to squeeze through to the other end of the crowd. The crowd is the water, the fixed space arena are the volume boundaries. In this scenario, the crowd happily steps out of your way as you push through. You do get bumped at every step, but not by much. And then comes winter. The concert arena is much colder, and the crowd has become denser, less friendly, more viscous. In winter, the crowd does not compress much. Water is generally incompressible, and the fixed space arena would only be able to accommodate a few extra people. 4, maybe 5? The density of the crowd hasn't changed, but its viscosity has. The gyrating has slowed, and our formerly cheerful friends are standing around with locked hands. You try to push through them, and you can, but only with great effort. Our friends are not giving way as easily as before. By the time you're halfway across the arena, you're exhausted. But does water viscosity vary that much by temperature? Enough to explain the roughly 40% difficulty I estimated I had faced. So, I looked up the temperature viscosity tables for water. And voila! 57%! That was the increase in viscosity of water at this temperature to this temperature. I had no idea. Surprisingly, viscosity and density are largely uncorrelated. For example, honey is a high density, high viscosity liquid. If it sink in water, it would be a mighty pain to swim in. Then there's mercury, a high density, low viscosity liquid. At 13 times the density of water, it would sink super fast, but its low viscosity also means it would flow fairly quickly if tipped out of a beaker. Oil is a great example of a low density, high viscosity liquid. And what about a low density, low viscosity liquid? Methylamine. So, if you come to Karakul Lake, or any high altitude lake, you may not swim as effortlessly as you'd like, but at least you'll know why. One of the interesting things about this lake, this dead lake, and dead because there really is an absence of flora or fauna in the lake. The water is brackish and cannot support it. But one of the interesting things I was trying to observe is this dead lake seems to be dying even more. And by that, I mean that it seems as though the water level is falling. We saw several examples of this obvious and recent receding of water levels. Alisho is of the opinion that there is a seasonal rise and fall of the waters in tune with the pattern of glacial melt. It's certainly very interesting. One thing we do know, and science is fairly unanimous on this point, the extent of the water was far more extensive than it is today. The rope slips from my fingers, numbed by cold, devoid of feeling. The waters of this lake, this hauntingly beautiful lake, are cold enough to kill. The sun sets and this rugged plateau burns in shades of umber and ochre and tan. I'm so glad I came. Most travellers overlanding from the north stop only for as long as it takes for a few photos before rushing south. We stayed for 3 days, but I would have happily stayed for 3 more. The answer, after all, was viscosity. I would never have guessed. And reinforced with such beauty and brutality, I will never forget.